a lot of your names. Thanks for being here today. I'm just going to go ahead and jump right into it. I want to talk about the 4 basic functions of behavior that you may or may not know. Essentially, behavior is a form of communication. Kids are trying to communicate. 4 functions of behavior: sensory or stimulation. A lot of kids will stim, or they're seeking sensory, or a hug from you, or pressure. One form. Second form, escape. A very common one. A very common one in schools, particularly, trying to escape out of math or a task they've been asked to do. A lot of you mentioned defiance in your questions. That often falls under escape. Not always, but often. They don't want to go to the grocery store, or they don't want to get in the car. That's escape. The third one is attention. They're seeking attention, whether it's positive or negative. They don't care. They haven't gotten enough of it. They want some sort of attention from you or from whoever is with them. And the fourth one is access to an item or a tangible or an event or a person. Sometimes you cannot figure out which one it is, but it is usually one of those. It is always one of those 4. You can't always figure out what it is. I tend to sometimes think it's sensory, and then after doing a whole, you can do what's called the behavior analysis, and you can have multiple people fill out questionnaires who've seen the behavior, and it will often lead you to the 4 functions of behavior, and it will lead you to the answer. So sometimes I think I know the function, I'm pretty sure I know the function, and then I have 5 different people fill out what they know about the kid and the behavior, and it leads me to a totally different conclusion, which of course then makes total sense, and it's like a light bulb. If you want more information about that, I can lead you guys to some functional behavior assessments that you could certainly take part in, and have different people in your family or different people that spend time with your child fill out. It's been very helpful to me in schools and just in working with families to really, once you can figure out the function, you can often lessen it. I am not here today to say that I can eliminate behaviors in children. I cannot. I can lessen them. I can make them better. I can make them easier. Sorry, my dog goes in and out and opens the door behind me. It's not a ghost. So with that, if you can figure out the function, you can often then figure out how to treat it. What I am finding a lot of times is that communication piece is lacking for a lot of our Down syndrome students. They either can't talk, won't use a communication board, so they use behavior to communicate their needs, and you don't always know what it is. It will help prevent it, and then you can figure out your intervention. Interventions, once you figure out the function, are best taught in a controlled environment. We often talk about using ABA therapy with children on the spectrum, but know that ABA therapy can work across the board. ABA therapy is controversial, and I think that's only because some people have had bad experiences with it, just like you're going to have a bad experience with anything if you do it over and over. ABA therapy is simply figuring out the behavior and then just working through it, really breaking down that behavior piece by piece to the smallest task. So if I'm teaching a child to say, do the dishes, they're going to start out with that really, really tiny task of take the dish to the sink. That's a big deal for some kids. Some kids cannot do that. Some kids will drop it on the way. Some kids just refuse to do it. But they're taking that big piece and they're breaking it down into tiny, teeny segments and working up towards the bigger goal. So as I'm talking, I'm often referring to ABA. ABA is applied behavioral analysis. And like I was saying, we often use it for kids on the spectrum, but it can be used to teach just about anything. ABA starts in a clinic. they will start teaching it in a very controlled setting where it's done with one person and there's no distractions. It's quiet. It's a perfect environment. Great. The kid masters that pretty quickly. But then the difficulty becomes the transferring that skill to the home or to school or the community or a friend's house. Once you can transfer that behavior, you can pretty much do anything with it. But that is the hardest part, is you've got it great in the clinic setting with a certain clinician, but then the second mom tries it, it's a mess. It doesn't work. So then you go back to that clinical setting. But let's take away the clinical setting and let's just use it for your purpose in the home. So your child is seeking attention. You have determined that. So you start teaching it in your home, somewhat controlled. You're going to have some distractions. Of course, you have pets, you have siblings, you have a significant other, whatever, not completely controlled, but it might be the most controlled you're going to get. So you start teaching that child how to raise their hand appropriately so that they're not wildly trying to get the attention of everyone in the class. You start it in the home, you start at the dinner table. You teach that skill. You talk to the teacher, we're working on hand raising. That teacher is then going to try and do it in the classroom, and she's going to try and do exactly what you're doing. Consistency is key. A lot of the defiance behaviors, I love the flop and drop that someone mentioned when they were talking about it. That's often defiance. But a flop and drop can be so many different things. I mean, it could be all three, and you have to, all four functions of behavior, and you have to figure out which one it is. Behavior charts. Let's talk about those. They can be great, but they have to be used intentionally. They have to be used consistently. You have to carry it around with you. You have to laminate it. You have to put it around your neck. You have to put it in your wallet, make a mini one, make a small one. Behavior charts start out super simple. It might just look like a picture of a child brushing their teeth and with an empty space under it for a child to check, or not. It might just have a picture of teeth brushing and then a picture of the bed. You brush your teeth, you get in bed. Once they do that, they get a check, and then they're working towards something. Behavior charts are best geared when it is a positive behavior. Positive behavior reinforcements are better than negative. Not to say you can't use negative, you can, but start out with the reward. When your child does not flop and drop in Walmart, celebrate it, make a big deal of it every single time. A lot of these behaviors are great in school. School is uncontrolled but controlled. School tends to be the same every day. I know that my assistant is, every single time that child does something, I know that assistant every single time is going to give them a check or give them an X. I have seen behaviors eliminate like that, but it's so hard. It's going to be really, really hard. So, we all see those things going around, pick your hard. You're not going to eliminate the flop and drop. You're not going to eliminate the defiance, but you can certainly try and lessen it with, let's say, a behavior chart. But I'm going to give you lots of tools for your basket. Another tool that I carry around all the time in my backpack, in my pocket, are timers. Sand timers are small, they're easy, they're okay. They don't tell you exactly how much time is left. I love small little visual timers that you would use in the kitchen. You can buy really fancy ones geared towards special education students, but they're pricey. Kitchen timers are great. The timer on your phone is also great. It can show how much time is left. There's actually a stopwatch.com is a great one. You can do an hourglass on your phone. Phone is great for a timer if you don't want to carry one around. However, I like to carry one around because I like to be able to hand it to the child. I can't always hand my phone to a child, because you'll start out running the timer and you want to be able to make that an independent skill. So for example, I have a student, he makes noises in class. 90% of the time it is stimming. He is using his vocal cords to stim. He can stim all he wants outside on the swing or outside on the slide. For a while, I was using an entire staff member to go outside with him with the timer. But now I've completely transferred it to him. He can take that timer. He has 5 minutes to go outside. He can come back. He can ask for more time if he needs it. A lot of these kids need that power. We need to empower them. We need to give them choices. And I always say, you start out with 5 minutes. If you come back in and you need more, no problem. You just have to come. He does have to come back in and check in. He is 100% doing that now. And most of the time, he does not need more time. He wants to come back and join the class. These kids are socially motivated to do well, but socially and emotionally, they often don't have the skills. I put in the chat a wonderful social skills website, again, often geared towards children on the spectrum. But even the woman who created the website says, yes, people use this for children on the spectrum. However, it is used across the board for neurotypical kids, children who have been diagnosed with Down syndrome, chromosomal abnormalities, children who struggle with social skills. ADHD kids often struggle with social skills, that social emotional piece. So I'm going to dive into social skills for a little bit. And yes, I'll put it back. I'll put it back in the chat box. It's socialthinking.com, but I'll put it back in there. She has free webinars. I use a ton of her books. She has a ton of visuals you can order. I often can just look at the visuals and create them myself. It is wonderful. She addresses lots of different pieces. She has all kinds of free, like 30 to an hour webinars about executive functioning. And she dives into kind of that teenage piece too. And she works with adults also. So it's not just geared towards kids, it's across the age spectrum. Visual schedules, we all know that kids really benefit from visual schedules. They are hard to make, they are time consuming. I make them for our daily schedule. Velcro is my best friend. I can pull them off, I can change it up. Visual timers, the visual behavior chart, the visual schedule for your day. All that will really help to lessen behaviors if you're consistent. As you go about creating these behavior charts and the visual schedules, think about your long-term goals. So I saw a lot of, the defiance, the stubbornness, not listening. Think about your long-term goals for the child, knowing that the behavior will eventually age itself out, or it won't. Your long-term goal is typically to lessen the behaviors. Think about the setting where you want to lessen the behaviors, and think about where you want to lessen the behaviors. Often we want to eliminate them when we're in a hurry in the community, or when we're at someone else's house, or we're at the grocery store. And that's hard to teach. You don't always have the time to go to Walmart just to teach how to use the visual schedule. You're going to Walmart because you're in a hurry and you need to get something 9 times out of 10. But consider going to Walmart and just going to teach. We walk through the aisles quietly with our hands by our side. You might need to go just to teach instead of going for groceries one day. I have the luxury of running a private school here in the area where I take kids to Walmart just to teach them to walk down the aisles, pushing the cart while looking with their eyes instead of looking at what's on the shelf and running into everybody. We don't always have that luxury though in schools or at home. The flop and drop, the defiance, it's really hard. So I'm going to keep throwing at you tools. Keep it interesting. I often break it into song at school or turn on music and start a dance party. I think that's a really common one to do at home. I think a lot of you are probably already doing things like that. It can, as I call it, flip the switch. They're on the floor, they're being defiant. Ignoring is awesome. Ignoring plus the keep it interesting part, jumping up on the table, just doing something really, really out of the box. Yelling. A lot of our kids don't like loud noises, but sometimes it can flip the switch, as I like to call it. You don't want to do the same thing every time. You don't always want to play their favorite song. Eventually that's going to get old. It's going to wear out. So with the defiance part, I often like to ignore it first. If that doesn't work, I will try to flip that switch. Keep it interesting, do something different, do something out of the box. What I have found in my school setting is that all of these kids need a purpose. A lot of them have been going to school or they're at home and they don't really have a big purpose. Once I gave some of my kids an important job, not a made up job. I can make up jobs all day long. Here, take this book into the other room, take this book into the main building. I can make up those jobs. They catch on that they're not important. Once I started having a child come in and make the coffee every day, and every single adult who walked through that door was like, thanks for making the coffee. Thanks for making the coffee. He saw us drinking it. He knows it's delicious. Giving that sense of purpose. That is our mission at Clover Community School, is to try and find what will make that child feel successful. So make sure they have a purpose at home. It might be feeding the dog. It might be, I have children that love to write things. So every day, one of our child writes all the names of the students at their desk area. And at the end of the day, we clean them all up and he comes back in and he does it the next day. And while that is kind of a fake job, he thinks it's really important and all the students love it and praise him for it. So think about if your child has a sense of purpose at home. Give them the task of holding the list at the grocery store. We can't always give them a task of pushing the basket because we know that's not a great task and you're going to interrupt everybody in the store. But think about, why are you taking them? Do you have a sense of purpose for them? Can they go and find the apples and put them on the scale or put them in the bag and put them in the basket? Teach your child to use the scanner at the self-checkout if you do that. So think about a purpose before you set out on an outing. Set up the expectation with a child. They love to feel important, as every human does. We all need a job. We all need to feel like we belong and a sense of purpose. Consistency across all environments. I talk about that a lot with families, and it's probably the hardest thing. We can all say, oh, be consistent, but I know how difficult that is. At school, I have assistants who help me be consistent, and they're right there. They're not doing anything else but making sure that behavior modifications and accommodations are consistent. So while it's easy for me to say, it can be hard at home. Consistent, I guess, as possible. If they have a nanny or a babysitter, try to keep it as consistent as possible. Pick your battles. I think we all do that all day long. I won't harp on that, but that is something at school that I really have to remember to tell myself. Is it harming anybody? No. Is it going to be detrimental in an hour or tomorrow or the next day? If not, really think on that. Picking your battles and being consistent often do not go hand in hand, but it is what it is. Like I said, we're not eliminating, we're lessening the behaviors. I'm kind of pinballing all around, so shoot me a chat or let me know if I'm forgetting something or you have a question or you need me to go back to something that I touched on. As you're making your visual schedules and your behavior charts, make sure your language is simple, clear. When you're giving verbal instructions because you don't have your visual schedule or you just can't find it right then, clear instructions. Brush teeth now, please. Versus, please go upstairs and brush your teeth before we have to leave for school. They heard school. It triggered them. They hate going to school, and now they're on the stairs. Clear and simple. No generic, oh, before we leave for school, we're leaving soon. Really try and use those timers, give them exact instructions. Please go and brush your teeth now. Social stories, I love them. I will add to my chat box. Thank you for ever reposted that website. I'm going to add my favorite social skills website. I think her name is Carol Dweck. Social stories are wonderful. They're very clear. They're very concise. Once you read 10 of them, you'll be able to write your own for just about anything you need it for. A lot of our kids can be rule followers, and social stories do just that. They take your scenario and it very much clearly and concisely puts it into words and creates a little story. Once you get good at writing them, you can personalize them, and it's great. Carol Dweck has 1,000,001 examples on her website where you can type in a topic and you can find one. Social stories simply spell out, for example, going to the grocery store. When we go to the grocery store, we are shopping for groceries. We will go up and down our aisle, checking the list. When we are done, we will check out at the self-checkout. We will put our items in a bag. It just literally lists what's going to happen. It's good for prepping for new activities or new adventures you're going on. Yes. Let's go back to social skills a little bit. Social skills are going to lessen a lot of your behaviors. A lot of times I feel like children are acting out because they don't know what to do. They freeze. They don't know how to navigate what they need to. So navigating the social world and then regulating your student. When I talk about regulating them, that refers to making sure they're not thirsty, making sure their kind of needs are met before you head out into the world. So you're heading out into your Saturday and you've got 5 errands to run. You want to make sure you've got all your snacks and your timers and your visual schedules. So keeping everything regulated, but you've got to teach them how to navigate that social world first. You've got to teach them to make eye contact and teach it to be friendly. That website I have posted, Social Thinking, it takes these tasks and breaks it down. I thought I was breaking down tasks into small enough pieces, and then I found socialthinking.com and realized I was not. I actually went to one of her trainings about 10 years ago. Her name is Michelle Garcia Winner. And I went to a 3-day training, and it changed my life. But the great news is she has a ton of it online, and I have forgotten a ton of it. And I watch probably about 2 a week now, just trying to get back into the groove of it. I thought I had broken down not interrupting, which is something I teach to my kids often, not to interrupt. And I thought it was very clear. You interrupt when there's an emergency. You don't otherwise. No, she didn't mention either one of those things. This was my lesson that I taught today for the social emotional piece. And she had 80 things of when it is appropriate to interrupt a conversation. And wow, it was so eye-opening for me to see that. So often I think I know how to break down a task, and then I realize I'm not even close. So really not in reinventing the wheel, and using her website and how she's broken down the tasks has been really helpful for me. One thing that I find with students who have Down syndrome, is the controlling the impulses, the communication piece, the relating to others, that frustration management. And those all typically fall under the social skills piece. It's that frustration management can be taught by teaching those social skills, role playing those social skills. I'm going to open up the chat because I see a bunch coming through. All right. Physical behaviors. Yeah, great question. Again, you're looking to lessen, not necessarily eliminate. For the physical behaviors, you're going to find yourself constantly rewarding the child when they are not having them. And it's going to be ridiculous. You might, so you're going to want to pick those times when they are physically aggressive. So let's say you're finding a child's physically aggressive when you're trying to get them in the car. Every time you transition, even if you're not getting in the car, you're going to reward that child. So getting in the car is a transition. So again, we're breaking down that task. While getting in the car seems like a really small task, really that task involves getting your shoes on, getting dressed. It's so tiny. So you want to start rewarding behaviors that look similar to getting into the car, which might just be going into a different room when you ask them to. Going outside, walking into the garage. You want to break that task down and start rewarding those little pieces. So if you can narrow down the time when they're having physical aggression and then reward for that when you don't have physical aggression, it will often lessen it. But you're going to give 100 rewards before you might see any progress, or you might see them right away. Good question. Rewards. What do rewards look like? You can go online and print up what's called, oh gosh, I can't think of the name of it. You can just Google it, a simple, I need a rewards idea sheet. They call them something fancy. The name is escaping me right now. And you can print up like a list of 100 things. There's visual ones as well. And you're going to hand that to your child and you're going to say, circle the things you like or color the things you like. And those are going to become your rewards. Rewards are different for all kids. It doesn't have to be something tangible. It might be time with an adult. It might be an extra story at bedtime. It might be 5 extra minutes of TV. But you're going to have to figure that out for your child. Some kids are really, really, really hard to figure out rewards for. That's why I say Google it. You can find charts with lists of hundreds of things. Google, also free ones are non-tangible rewards. Those are things we try to use in school, things that are free, things that don't cost money. I teach at a farm school with lots of animals. So our reward time often looks like time with the cat, just you, or you can go into the chicken coop, or you get to go collect the eggs. So it's different depending on, I guess, your situation or your setting or where you're at. Any other questions? Any other questions about rewards? That can be hard. Oh, yes, I did see the jealousy of siblings, and man, I'm going to be honest. I'm not great at the family dynamic piece because I am more of a school teacher. But you could try the rewards when they're not jealous. I don't know what that looks like. I would love to do some more research on that though, and try to get back to you on it. So I think somebody has someone's email here and I can get in touch with you on that. I'm going to make a note on that because that's come up a few times and I wouldn't mind diving into that topic for you guys. I'm going to go through some other questions that you guys had ahead of time. Personal space issues. We do a lot of that at our school, and I have not done this at my current setting, but hula hoops work great for that. Have the child carry on to hula hoop, and if they're bumping somebody, great. At our school, we do airplane arms, especially while we're trying to socially distance and keep our distance from people. Airplane arms work great. Before that, we were just doing chicken arms, but now we do full arm length. On the Social Thinking website, she used to use a phrase called weird thoughts. And with personal space, if people were in my space, I would say, oh, weird thought. It kind of throws them off for a minute and they're like, oh, I don't want to be weird. She's actually changed that to, I think that makes me uncomfortable. I've been using weird thought though for 10 years and I'm really not going to change it. I even talk to my students about that and why I'm not going to change it, but that you can also say uncomfortable thought. If your child's socially motivated, use the friends thing. You're not going to have friends if you're standing directly in someone's face. We tape off areas sometimes. So like when we line up, everyone has an X that they stand on so that they're not all scrunched together. All right, I'm seeing someone went to a conference. They suggest your rewards to be the highest motivator if that's an option. Yes, if they ran into the house and had full reign, where would they be? Stealing the iPad, fruit snacks from the pantry, then that's a reward. Oh, yes, exactly. What is that tangible they're trying to get? If the behavior is seeking a tangible, you're going to find your reward real fast. Yeah, if a kid is constantly sneaking the iPad, that's what your reward is. I love that tip. Thank you. How do we redirect without making a child feel negative? Oh, great question. I do this at school all day long. Today, when we were talking about interrupting, I often try to tie it into an example of when I've been an interrupter before. That goes back to a lot of growth mindset. Like, I'm not upset with you, I'm teaching. I often will have students pull out of the main group and I'll take them outside. And in the beginning, they were horrified because they've had bad experiences with that. A teacher takes them outside of the classroom and they yell at them or they shame them. I do that. I pull them out of the classroom. But as soon as, and now they know, they come out of the classroom, no problem. But as soon as they get out there, I say, oh, I want to teach you something. And I often lead with those words. I want to teach you something. People think it's weird when you burp and don't say, excuse me. But you probably don't know that. Even if I've said this to them 80 times, I always lead with, I'm going to teach you something. And usually I haven't taught it to them 80 times. Usually it takes 2 or 3 times and they're like, oh, she's teaching me. It empowers them to know that they didn't know it before. It's kind of like implying that when you say that. And then if the child really needs it, maybe they're still getting upset, I will talk about a time where I had a similar behavior, even if I'm making it up. So that's what I do. What do you do when they knock everything off of a table? Reward them when they don't knock everything off of a table. That's hard. So I guess they're knocking things off a table on purpose. A lot of times we can use classic behavior techniques, but we're just modifying our approach. I'm not saying you can't use negative consequences because you certainly can, and I certainly do use them. I have a student right now, and if she digs in her heels, I'll use the visual schedule, I'll use the timer, I'll use a positive reward. If this, then you can have this. And nothing works. The second I say I'm going to remove iPad time at home, it often, not always, it often will prompt her to get moving or finish what she's doing. And then I'll often come to her with, what's wrong? What's going on? Instead of just shaming and just punishing. Hey, can I help you? Hey, you lost iPad time today. However, tomorrow, let me help you more with this. Or what can we do if this happens tomorrow? And we really try to dig in. And 9 times out of 10, it does not happen the next day. Will it still happen again later? Probably. Maybe twice a year I have to pull it out of my bucket. But not often. She knows it's there. She doesn't like it. She hates going home and not being able to get on the iPad. So negative can work. I'm not seeing anything. Oh, yes, here's something. OCD behavior. Yes, meaning asking me the same question over and over. Yes, I saw that on here. I have students that do that, and I turn the question around. I think you know the answer to that, or what do you think? If it tends to be the same question over and over, you want to try to eliminate that verbal answer. So, for example, every single night your child asks for a cookie in bed, and you know it's coming, you know it's there, and every single night you say no, but now you're just switching it to a card that says no, or you may have one in the morning, or you may have one at lunch. So you're going to try to eliminate that answer that you give every time. I love carrying Post-it notes around. You can draw a quick photo on it or write a quick word on it if they can read, and you're just showing that to them. So you're trying to reduce your verbal output and not answer that question over and over by pointing or holding up a sign. Let me read the rest of your question, meaning ask me the same question over and over and over again. I will answer her first again and again, and then I will switch it up and tell her sweetly, yes, I love you. Remember, I just told you that I love you always and forever. She will agree in 5 to 10 seconds. Ask me again. This will continue over and over. Yeah, I would stop the engagement. You know the answer to that, and then that planned ignoring. It can be pretty powerful, but let's say it's not. You're ignoring, she continues to ask you, your planned ignoring gets pretty big. You're leaving the room. She's following you out. She's continuing to ask you. And wow, that's a hard one. I love you. That pulls at your heartstrings too. Yeah, I would try the visual cue. Yeah, okay, great. You like the card, the nonverbal sign. Yes. You could also do the sign, I love you, sign language teacher. That, what is it? Something like that. What else? Okay, I'm going to go through my list, but y'all keep firing questions at me. I got through what I wanted to ask. Resist parents trying to teach new things. Okay, I like that. So you're teaching a new skill. Can you personalize it to her? Often when I'm teaching a child a new skill, that child is used to being shamed because they've been taught it 5 times and they still don't know it. So I will talk about how I struggled in math, and I had to be taught a million times how to round a number to the nearest tens. Even if you're making it up, try and make it personal, and that you also had to learn new things and use siblings and brothers and friends and use a different person every time. And you can if you look up growth mindset too, there is a pretty decent TED Talk. Let me put this in the chat, and I'll try to find the TED Talk geared towards kids on growth mindset. And growth mindset refers to realizing that you don't know everything and that it's okay to be corrected and be taught new things. Some of your older teens could listen to that TED Talk and possibly take some from it. It's really short. It's like 3 minutes. I've shown it to a couple kids in my class, and it's really helped them. There's also an activity called Austin's Butterfly. A quick Google search will bring it right up. It's so cool. It shows, it's a like 5-day activity. I just did it with a group of kids at school, and it's a drawing of a butterfly and a real scientific photo of a butterfly. And I used my nephew, his name happened to be Austin. So I used him, and he's about 5 years old. And it's this whole scenario of Austin's trying to draw a scientific picture of a butterfly. Can you give him some advice? And you're holding up the scientific picture of the butterfly and the drawing. And the drawing's just a ridiculous butterfly that I usually draw with my left hand, so it looks awful. And the kids then go through and they give Austin advice, and they're like, oh, he needs to make the wings pointy, or oh, this. And then, okay, the next day you come back and you have the better picture of a butterfly, and it's them taking the advice. So I redraw it and I take their advice. Okay. And it goes on for 5 days until they almost have a perfect picture. And so then the next step of that is, okay, now we're going to do it. And you draw something and you're trying to do a scientific, and then you trade papers and you give each other advice. If you have siblings, involve them in it. It's really cool. Austin's Butterfly, you can watch a teacher do it on YouTube. It's really cool. It's really powerful. Yes, Austin's Butterfly. A really cool growth mindset activity for all ages, from 4, I'd say, to adults. It's a great growth mindset, teaching us how to constantly edit and revise our work. Setting limits and providing a structured environment. That might sound like something that I would teach. I guess you might be asking how to do that, how to set limits and provide a structured environment. That goes back to those visual schedules, using those timers, a possible behavior chart, and creating that sense of purpose for them. So they're in an environment, let's say you're homeschooling or they're doing their virtual schooling. Great, make them in charge of turning on the computer, have them clean the monitor, maybe have them make sure their space is clean. All right. And then now can you clean my space too? So giving them that sense of purpose, not just for themselves, but they're doing something for someone else. We all love to serve. One of my favorite things that we do at Clover Community School is we go to the retirement home and we sing, or we go and make cookies with them and talk about a day with 0 behaviors. It's incredible. A child will do anything to go to the house where the grandmas and grandpas live. I see no behaviors on those days. It's crazy. Every day during choir, I have the same kid who acts out. But when we go and perform and we are serving, all those behaviors are gone. Those kids love to have a sense of purpose at my farm. It's wonderful. So if you can create that where they are serving instead of being served. These kids are served all day long. They are served at school. We serve them at home. But are they able to serve in some way, shape, or form? See if you can find that piece for them. If you need ideas, I can certainly try and create a list. I have a list going of ways that we serve at Clover Community School, and every child can participate in some way, shape, or form. What else? Feel free to unmute if you guys just want to ask some questions. How are we doing on time? 7:48. Yep. Some of you might be good. Some of you might still have questions. I'm going to go through and see if I got all the questions. Pushing, hitting, kicking. Yeah, I hoped I helped with that. What are your thoughts regarding setting expectations, administering consistent consequences for not meeting expectations? Okay, great. I missed that one. Setting expectations. Yeah, it's kind of setting that goal. So let's pretend like you're going to the grocery store. Set that goal. Hey, here's the list. I expect you to hold the list. Maybe pick 5 things that they're going to get, maybe have a picture of it so they know. And maybe it's the same 5 things every time you go to the grocery store. Dog food, apples, find those couple of things that they can get every time you're at the grocery store. And then you're going to keep increasing or adding to that list. All right, potty training tips. Oh, I'm so glad you mentioned it. I'm actually really working on finding someone to do a potty training webinar for you guys. I am not versed in that at all, so I won't even pretend to be. But one of my assistants worked at the children's shelter, and she is reaching out to her coordinator there to see if she can give a potty training webinar for you guys. A website for growth mindset. Ooh, yes. And you have someone lined up in May. Oh, good. Great. You possibly have someone coming to do potty training. That's great. Who was the TED Talk by? Ooh, I will try and find that. I see a few growth mindset ones. Good, good. Great. Okay. Yes, I'll find the growth mindset. Lindsay, do we have a way to email? Oh, I think I got the email of everyone who registered. So I might be able to email you guys, and I'll email you guys all the stuff, the social thinking, the social stories by Carol Dweck, the growth mindset TED Talk. Yeah, I bet there are a few. I'll send you the specific one I'm talking about.
We'll make sure you have everyone's email address that you can email them, and then are you okay, Sharon, if maybe someone emails you back with a
of course.
Okay.
Yeah, so, of course.
Yeah. Awesome.
Yeah, I'll send everyone in this training an email. I might not get to it till this weekend, but I will definitely send that out to you guys. And then, yeah, feel free. You guys can ask me questions all the time. I love serving the whole community. We're Clover Community School for a reason, not just serving our families. We're actually working on opening up a parent library. We have so many parent resources with a lot of the books from the Social Thinking website as well. We're really working on opening that up as soon as the pandemic's over. I don't know. You get vaccinated. I don't know. We're going to open one up. It's been in our plans for a while. We have so many resources. So we're looking at opening up a community resource library for that. We're pretty centrally located. Do you teach, or are you aware of any ongoing local positive parenting classes like those 6 to 8 week courses? Ooh, I'm not, but I have a ton of people who I can reach out to. So yeah, even if I've said that I don't know something, that doesn't mean I don't have people in my circle that can help. One of my assistants has worked at the children's shelter for years, so she's seen it all, and she is great at things like that. And I bet she has some positive parenting classes. So yeah, feel free to email me any questions like that for resources. Great. I hope I didn't talk too fast. I kind of just go. If there are a few must-have books, will you let us know? We can also add them. Ooh, yes, I will. Actually, just today got a big shipment from the Social Thinking website. I just ordered 5 books from there, and one of them is really, actually, I'll send you 3 that are really great, and I'll put those in the email as well. That would help you guys.
Awesome. Thank you, Sharon. Is there anybody who wants to ask a question, maybe didn't ask it through the chat, but would like to just unmute and ask a question while we still have Sharon here? Okay. Awesome. Well, thank you very much, Sharon. We really appreciate your time to come and talk to us and give us some great information. And we'll make sure that everyone gets on the email that Sharon's going to send out with all of these resources and information. So, all right. Well, I guess if no one else has any additional questions, then we'll call that a wrap for now.
Cool. Thanks, you guys.
All right. Thank you guys so much.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Thanks.
Yeah, thanks. Bye, guys.
Bye.